Welcome back everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to create this cool character reveal page using only HTML and CSS. There's no JavaScript required. Let's get into it. For the file structure, I have the images of my characters in an image folder, and then I'll create an index.html and a styles.css file. We will start with the boilerplate HTML, then change the title and link to our style sheet. Since I have 4 characters and I want each section to potentially link to another page, I'll create 4 anchor elements with a class of character card, and each anchor element will have a front and back div. Inside the back div we'll have an image and paragraph for the character description, and the front div will have a heading for the character's name. That shorthand notation you just saw was done with a plugin called Emmet. Let me know if you want a full tutorial on that. I will then fill in the information for the images, character description, name, and I'll just leave the anchor tags blank. And that's all the HTML that is needed. Moving on to the CSS, I like to start by removing the default margin and padding for all elements, and then setting the box sizing to border box. This is a personal preference, but I find it easier to work this way. Next I want a cool font, so let's jump over to Google Fonts and find one. I like the look of this one, so let's get that and copy this line into the top of our CSS file. We will then use that font family for all elements. Since the body is the container for our characters, and I want it to take up the whole screen, let's set its height to 100% of the viewport, give it a display of grid, and then I want 4 columns of equal width. I also want each row to take up the height of the viewport, and I want a small gap between all the items. Right now the cards are creating scroll bars, so to get rid of those we'll set that overflow to hidden. Now we can only see the image because the elements are all stacked below each other in normal document flow and are being hidden. But we want the front to be on top of the back, so we'll position them absolutely. This stuffs up our grid and we can see the gap disappears because right now they are being positioned absolutely relative to the body. Let's change that and make them relative to the card by giving that a position value of relative. Now our grid is correct, but the description is still below the image and is still being hidden. So we want to position both of these absolutely as well, and since their parent, the card back, already has a position value, that is all we have to do. Now to fix the image, we will set its height and width to 100%, but this makes it disappear because the parent div does not have any set dimensions. So let's set the back to take up 100% of the height and width, and we want the front to cover the back later on, so let's also apply that to the front. This works because the parent of the front and back divs is the anchor tag, which has set dimensions from being a grid element, so the front and back, which are stacked on top of each other, take up 100% of this space. Finally, for the image we'll set the object fit to cover so it keeps its aspect ratio but grows to fill the space. Next, we want to position the name on the front in the center and the description on the back in the center at the bottom, so we will give the front and back a display of flex and justify content center. Then for the front we'll align the items in the center, and for the back we will align the items at the end. We also want all the text to be white, so let's change that. To make the character description easier to read, let's make the font size bigger, give it a semi-transparent black background, some padding between the text and the edges of the background, a margin from all the sides, and finally we will round the corners of the background. That's pretty much the back of the card done, so let's finish off the front. We will give it a background color of black, then to make the text read from top to bottom, we will give it a writing mode of vertical LR and a text orientation of upright. Now for the hover effects. We want these to trigger whenever we hover over one of the cards. The front is easy and all we have to do is set the opacity to 0. For the back we want the description to slide in from the left, so let's offset it by 200 pixels initially and then change that back to 0 when we hover. For the image, we want that to zoom out, so we'll increase the scale by 1.5 times and then reduce that back to 1 on hover. Finally, we want all these transitions to take half a second, so we will apply that to those 3 classes. To finish, we'll add some media queries for responsiveness. I always want there to be 4 columns, 2 columns, or a single column, which is why I chose to use grid over flex for the body. The breakpoints that I found to look the best are 2 columns for devices with a width less than 1400 pixels and a single column for devices with a width less than 700 pixels. And that is the effect done. Let me know if you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.